Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome aboard the Revelation, a soar-to-sing Helios corvette under the command of Shipmistress Marquis Java. Since the start of the created conflicts, I decided to relocate my subspace communications to a more military vessel for better protection. For today's edition of Covenant Remnants, we will be looking deep into Jul Mdama's Covenant faction, one of the most prominent and powerful Covenant splinter groups in the post-war era until its collapse in 2558. Let's begin. This is Covenant Canon. After the Human-Covenant War and the initial phase of the Great Schism, the Covenant's former member races returned to their home systems. Many Sangheili and Jerohane continued to fight each other, steadily dwindling both sides' military resources. Although some Jerohane remained loyal to their Sangheili masters, a great number of Sangheili began to forsake the Prophet's false religion. The Sangheili soon fell into civil war, sparked by Belvadon's desire to make peace with humanity. In March of 2553, a loose coalition of keeps opposed to the peace treaty launched an assault on the state of Adam and the Arbiter's followers, although the timely intervention of the UNSC Infinity turned the tide of battle to the Arbiter's favor. Jul Mdama, a former shipmaster and former member of the Servants of the Abiding Truth, began dissolution with the Arbiter and humanity after being kidnapped by the Office of Naval Intelligence. His resolve was strengthened when his wife, Raya, was killed during the Sangheili civil conflict. After escaping only custody on the shield world of Tarvalia via a Forerunner portal, Jul gained a small following of Sangheili on the colony world of Heshadoros, the populace of which were unaware of the schism and of the war's end. Fading religious devotion to the Forerunners, he resolved to recover Forerunner technology from the shield world of Requiem, much as the humans had done to Travalia. Though he believed it was unlikely that any Forerunners were still alive, Mdama also planned to find the Didact, the leader of the Forerunner military, with whom he shared disdain for humanity. It was here where Mdama founded a new mission, a new purpose, a new covenant, with him as its head. Mdama's fleet arrived at Requiem in 2554, although they could not gain access to the Shield World. The Covenant fleet subsequently took up positions around the planet. For the next 3 years, the Covenant attempted to awaken the Didact by broadcasting his name from orbit in 30-minute intervals, although their calls received no response. During this time, Mdama frequently dispatched raiding parties to steal supplies from other planets. By July of 2557, the Covenant had gathered a formidable fleet, consisting of at least 16 CRS-class light cruisers and a single CAS-class assault carrier, the Song of Retribution, as their flagship. At this time, one of the raiding parties noticed a human ship, the Forward Unto Dawn, drifting towards the planet. Mdama ordered the fleet to stop it from entering. Multiple boarding parties attempted to take the crippled ship, but were fought off by the legendary demon who almost single-handedly ended the Great War 4 years ago. After being pulled into Requiem along with the demon, the surviving Covenant forces immediately began establishing positions all over the Shield World. Upon the discovery of Requiem's core and the awakening of the Promethean Knights, the Covenant forces engaged in an all-out war against these constructs. But upon the awakening of the Didact, the Covenant and Promethean forces bowed before this false god, and aided in his plans to destroy humanity with his composer. After the Didact fell at the hands of the demon, the Promethean army soon came under the control of Mdama, now known as the Didact's Hand. As the Didact's Hand, Mdama was able to push aside the majority of competing Sangheili warlords. Mdama also managed to sway several previously neutral Sangheili worlds to his side, and secretly began making preparations for an invasion of St. Helios. This newfound power did not come without a price, as splits within the new covenant exploded into violence as newcomers competed for prestige and influence. After several conflicts, Mdama focused his attention on Requiem. He leaked his plans to Oni and prepared to draw the UNSC into a grinding war of attrition. This would give him the opportunity to cement his control over the Covenant and sacrifice any forces whose loyalty was suspected. The reformed Covenant maintained their presence on Requiem in 2558. By this time, they had begun searching for the Librarian AI in the hopes of finding more relics. Oni, having taken Jul Mdama's bait, sent the UNSC Infinity to Requiem, thus beginning the Second Battle of Requiem. The Covenant and their Promethean allies engaged in numerous skirmishes with UNSC forces. Territories and facilities around Requiem traded hands multiple times. The Covenant forces discovered the Librarian imprint at the Librarian's Rest and set upon a military base inside, with Mdama and his lieutenant, Gek Lahar, supervising the Covenant's attempt on activating the imprint. Their first attempt on activating the shrine was capturing a human scientist named Henry Glassman and forced him to work on awakening the Librarian. However, the human escaped Mdama's grasp shortly after his capture. Jul then abducted the mother of the demons, Dr. Catherine Elizabeth Halsey, to finish Glassman's work. Succeeded where Glassman had failed, Halsey recovered the Janus key from the shrine, but a team of demons invaded the Librarian's Rest, resulting in the split of the Janus key, one half in the hands of the humans, one in the Covenant's. After escaping the skirmish with the wounded Halsey in tow, Jul Mdama sent Requiem in a collision course with its local star in a bid to destroy the Infinity. The Covenant and the UNSC forces fled the planet before its destruction. While the Covenant suffered considerable losses, including the mercenary Park Vol and Mdama's lieutenant Gek Lahar, they escaped with two important assets. One half of the Janus key and Dr. Halsey, who offered to assist Mdama in exchange for his help achieving vengeance against the UNSC. After the destruction of Requiem, one of Mdama's shipmasters, Vatekejat, broke off from his covenant and established a mercenary faction that would come under the employment of human rebels. In a plot to acquire the other half of the Janus key, Dr. Halsey and Jul Mdama launched an offensive against the human colony of Oban, solely in order to draw the Infinity to a vulnerable position. This allowed Halsey to trap the Infinity in a planet named Ectus 4 in order to prompt the UNSC to take the other half of the key to the planet. At the same time, Jul began to face other problems within his covenant. Some of his followers began questioning his decisions, especially for allowing Requiem to be destroyed and by letting a human to work with them. Soon after, the zealot Salih Neon began recruiting followers and plotted against Mdama's rule over the Covenant. Nonetheless, the Covenant succeeded in deceiving the crew of the Infinity to bring their half of the key to the surface of the planet. While the UNSC's half of the key was en route, the convoy carrying it was attacked and shot down by Neon's rebels. In the confusion, the shipmaster, the Breath of Annihilation, believed the attack on the Infinity had begun earlier than expected, and Jul's entire fleet engaged the human ship, while Mdama traveled to the crash site to reclaim the other half of the key himself. Sully Neon managed to retrieve it first, and he brought it back to his hidden base. As Jul and some of his ground forces began to eliminate the insurgents, the rest of his soldiers fought against the human forces. During this purge, Jul Mdama's forces destroyed the last of Sully Neon's outposts, and a captive Neon was brought before Mdama, who had the rebel leader kept alive for his punishment. Luck was further on his side when Dr. Halsey retrieved the other half of the Janus key from a Sangheili defector who wanted to rejoin the Covenant after realizing there was no hope for Neon's rebellion. Halsey and Mdama subsequently reunited the halves of the Janus key and used the artifact to pinpoint the location of the Absolute Record. With both halves of the Janus key, Jul and his fleet worked to find the exact location of the Absolute Record, while hiding within the Uru system. Jul kept Sully Neon in captivity aboard his flagship, and personally interrogated him, although the failed revolutionists only implied that Jul will soon realize the amount of insurgents that remain within his ranks. Jul's fleet arrived at an artificial gas giant with a slipspace portal leading to the Absolute Record. Before the fleet could press forward, slipspace ruptures materialized around the fleet, destroying at least 2 ships and damaging the Breath of Annihilation. While the Song of Retribution proceeded to the record, the Breath of Annihilation descended to a nearby moon for repairs. In the record, Jul, Dr. Halsey, and an escort of zealots confronted the custodian of the installation and human stowaways that boarded the Song of Retribution. As conflict began erupting between all parties, Jul had ordered the Song of Retribution to fire upon the Absolute Record and recalled his forces from the installation. However, they found the situation had worsened at the Breath of Annihilation. With the help of a Sangheili sellsword, Ait Savahi, Sully Neon had broken out of imprisonment and rallied his followers to capture the Breath. With the assault carrier and Jul's vaults of foreigner artifacts in their possession, Neon engaged Jul's ship in a starfight before fleeing in cowardice. A month later, Jul Mdama and his followers gathered above the planet of Kamchaka, where they fought against the Promethean constructs, no longer bound to the Covenant's goals. In the midst of this rebellion, Jul Mdama was killed by a demon named Jameson Locke, dealing a devastating blow to the Covenant. After news about Mdama's death reached the rest of the Covenant, they gathered their remaining strength and launched a final, desperate invasion on Sanghelios, in the course of which they attempted to assassinate Belvedam. In response, the UNSC and the Sword of Sanghelios attacked the city of Sunayon, the Covenant's final stronghold. The battle ended with a devastating defeat for Jul Mdama's alliance, ending his vision for a new Covenant. What remains of Jul Mdama's military fortresses on Heshadoros had already been laid waste, with the last remaining pockets of his alliance scattered to the wind. Well, that does it for today. Before I go, I would like to thank all of you for being so patient, as this video took longer than usual videos. So let us aim for 100 likes for this one. Until next we meet, may Urus's everlasting light shine your path. Victory to clan and kin, brothers and sisters. Nakai, out!
Children, the time of ascension has arrived. Oh, for the love of God, haven't any of you ever been in a cult before?